Hello, beautiful angels. I've come on today to talk about the masculine and the feminine and balancing this in our relationships. What can we get out of it? I just want to say I was so blessed to see the interactions in the last video that I put up. Yeah, it was especially touching for me because it's strange when you put something out there into the world and hold it dear, and then interacting with you and receiving that love back has been so special for me. It's been a really beautiful acceptance in my own work. So thank you for reacting in that way. Naomi, Lena, like so many different people. A big shout out to Zoe as well. Like, all you girls are absolutely amazing and so unique, and I'm so happy to have you in this group because this is where the real work happens, and this is where we can actually get some stuff going. If you're watching this video, come and say hi so you can interact, and we've got some questions and bits at the end as well if you do feel like there's anything that you want to ask. And it would be great to just say hello in the world of live videos. So yeah, I'm just really happy that people have been commenting and getting involved and coming to some realizations about certain things, and this is what this program is all about. For me, it's going to be working around shadow alchemy, and in particular on growth of relationships and ourselves. Like, how do we get to a deeper meaning of ourselves as women? How can we be more empowered in our own shadows and in our own light as well? And this work has so much deep meaning for me because it is a part of, for me, healing the masculine and the feminine, and what is that and how does it affect our relationships with ourselves and in relationships with others outside of that as well. And I'm putting my whole heart and my soul into this program, like literally at the moment. Like, I'm not working and this is the only thing that I'm focusing my time on because I want to do it, because it's where my soul is at. It's because it's something that I believe in, and it's something that I'm doing work on every day to get you guys to where you want to be, and to help others out in wholehearted honesty and love, right? Because I really do feel that that's where the growth is with people, is in that interaction, and me not shying away from that, and other people coming and putting the work in with that. And that's something I'm really realising more and more every day as I continue to do this work, and I continue to empower people. I continue to get people to where they want to be, to feel more comfortable, to feel more open to vulnerability, to look at themselves and really heal and go deep in to do that work. So this is what it's all about. So I'm going to go on, I'm going to speak a little bit today. Oh, hi Gail, thank you so much. I'm really glad you got something from it. So I'm going to go on today, and I'm going to speak about masculine and feminine, and how this kind of balance affects not just like our relationships, like I've said, and other people, but our everyday lives in ourselves, and not burning out in just flipping between one or the other, and these kind of misconstrued ideas of what the masculine and feminine is. And it's really important, valuable knowledge work to have about yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk a little bit about it, and then at the end there's going to be like a little exercise. So if you do feel like doing this at home, it would be absolutely amazing to find out what you can get out of it, and what you've learned from it as well, because the stuff that comes up from this is always so surprising. A lot of this comes back to childhood wounds, and a lot of this comes back to, you know, healing from past relationships or certain patterns that we've got ourselves stuck in. And some of you may already know this, and I know some of the ladies here have resonated with some of the things that I have said, of the patterns that I've gotten myself into, which is why I really do believe in spreading this kind of awareness, because it's something that can be looked over all of the time, if you understand what I mean. So if you resonate with any of this, do put it in the comments and tell me if there's anything that you feel that, you know, you can get some growth out of. And also anything else that you want to dig a little bit deeper into. So today, I would really like to get to know some of your questions on this. So if you're watching this back on the replay as well, pop your questions in the bottom so I can have a look at them and I can respond to them, so we can really get the most out of this work. If there's anything that you don't really quite get or you want a little bit more explaining in depth, because yes, sometimes I do just rabble on like I'm doing now. So we're going to get into some of the work today. So for me, this came about a lot from the child stuff before, and the reason why I fell into the survival child archetype, which is one of the first Carl Jung archetypes, and my whole course that's going to be coming up on this is going to be going deep into this work. So this is for people that are really wanting to get into those places, and not just, you know, look at them in their lives, but also work on them in every day and really embody that, so that they become, you know, they become the shadow and they work through it. Because there's a massive difference between shadow alchemy and shadow management. So shadow management is looking at the shadow and just looking at it and being like, okay, yeah, I have those traits, all right, I'm aware of it. And then it comes up again and again and again, and it keeps replaying and replaying and replaying, and it's not dealt with, it's not alchemized. Alchemizing the shadow is really going into the shadow and really becoming that shadow in that space, and then coming out the other end of it. It's where you really lean into your dark and find your true power. And that stuff can be really scary and it can be really shaky, and that's why it's really important for us to look after ourselves throughout this work as well. So I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff around self-care and stuff after this as well. So it's really important for you to take responsibility in that and do that, because you need it. Like you need it so much, not just like in the times that we're in now, but just for this sort of stuff. It's really like hard hitting, and it can really shake up some rocks on some grounding and things like that if you're not really feeling that rooted. And I know that this work really did that for me when I first started. So yeah. So looking at it, the child archetype came about from me because as I said, I didn't have a magic man. And when I talk about a magic man, I talk about, and there's a lot of like empowering women's workshops now where they talk about this magic man or the masculine within themselves, is because we have been repressed as females for such a long time that it's not been ingrained into us that we have both sides, masculine and feminine. It's just been like, you're a man, you're a woman, that's it. This is the man's role, this is the woman's role, and that's not what it's about. A lot of power was taken away from the original female tribes, the original goddesses. I'm talking about like the high priestess. Like, these were tribe leaders. These were people that, you know, not only just looked after families, but men would come to them for their wisdom, and everything would have to be within a woman's say. And that was taken away from women, and that was then women were suppressed because, you know, witches were looked at as they had a sort of dark magic mystery that people didn't understand. So they took that away from them, and they took the land away from them. They took, you know, their powers. They did all sorts of horrible things, you know, because there was that connection to the divine that comes through a woman. And I could go on and talk about this for so long, but that's the reason why we don't have our magic men within us anymore. And because we've been taught that, you know, we're just women, and women have these roles, and that's all it's about. When actually, if you're a woman, you have more masculine traits inside you than you do feminine traits. And if it's a man and he's looking at his relationships and the way that he kind of interacts with people, he'll have a lot more feminine in him than masculine. So, you know, as above, so below, as within, so without. So if you suppress the feminine within you, thank you. Yeah, no, it's good. And I'm feeling this energy as well. I'm really feeling this sort of build up this morning. The sun is shining and I'm feeling really positive, and I'm feeling really empowered to be able to give this information. So yeah, breathe in with that energy with you, Gail. absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it was it came to me as a big realization with that sort of power, and the sort of strength and the dominance and the stride was something that I was seeking in somebody else, and I really suppressed that within myself. So there was a feminine that was really suppressed on the inside, but on the outside I was showing this really sort of more together, you know, I'm strong, I'm independent, and it became such a really, really difficult thing for me to work through, because I was addicted to coffee and HIIT workouts and to-do lists and all of these structured things, right? They're very, very masculine things that I really suppressed the female traits within my own personality. And there's reasons why I did suppress them in my own vulnerability, and I think a lot of women can relate to this as well. And if you do relate to this, let me know, because it happens all the time. Is I suppressed the feminine, I suppressed the sensitivity, the vulnerability, the listening qualities, the softness, the creativity, the flow, because our society isn't built and isn't developed around those sort of qualities. And especially if you did have this sort of patriarchal upbringing where the man was like really strong all of the time, you know, and he was working, and my mum was a working mum, so she worked for a little bit and then she stopped working, and she was then a mother. And I think when you become a mother, sometimes that can become your whole identity, and that's all you are, is this living, caring, breathing thing that has babies and looks after them and puts them out into the world. And we don't see those other qualities in our mum, so we see them as, we inherit them in some sort of kind of weakness, you know, because it's that men have been strong in the workplace for so long, that men get paid more, that men have all these opportunities, and women, you know, it's the kind of rest and flow was never valued. It was never valued in society. It was never seen as a positive thing. And really, we need that flow. So the masculine holds the feminine, and the feminine is the flow. It's the earth cycle. It's the life flow, and that's what is breeding within all of us. You know, the Shakti and the Shiva. It's within all of us, and it moves through our bodies. It moves through the universe. When we're blocking that, we can't feel that, and this is where certain areas of our body, certain chakras, and certain life patterns play out, because we're so blocked from it. So I was really seeking that in other people, and that really came from a lack of stability in the first sort of male figure that I had in my life. So that was my father. He was very, he was a raging alcoholic, really, but he was very on and off. One minute and he was there, and the next minute he wasn't. So there was a lot of abandonment stuff that I've you know, dealt with and developed with because of this, and it wasn't stable. So then I really embedded that strong man within me, and I saw my mum as weak because I saw my dad overpower my mum a lot of the time. So I held these really instinctive, really negative things on both the masculine and feminine, and what would be known in attachment as disorganized attachment, which then affects all of your relationships, because it's on, it's off, you love the person, they get too close, you run away. It's a constant cycle. So one of these things that we can do is to have a look at how balanced your masculine and feminine is. So this is an activity that you can do at home, and it's just something to kind of see what your balance and your inner views are, because your subconscious will speak to you. So what you do is you get a piece of paper, and you have two sides, and on one side you write what is a man, and on the other side you write what is a woman. And underneath there you write down qualities that come to your mind just off the top of your head. Don't think about it. What is a man? What is a man? What is a man? What is a man? And just keep writing all of those things. On the other side, what is a woman? What is a woman? What is a woman? And you just keep writing all of those things down. So this is where we can really see the yin and the yang energy. Okay, that's another word for masculine and feminine, is the balance. And when we look at this, there's certain aspects on each side. So we've got here, I've got here loving. That's one on each side that I've got. I've got growth on each side. But there was a lot of negative things that I had on my list, and this is where I could really see the imbalance. So what is a man? And I had the sort of macho things stuck in my head because I was still seeking that in someone else, right? Still seeking that in a male figure. So strong. But then I also had things like vulnerable, defenseless, and this is where the split came. Especially as a young girl, I remember holding my father in my hands at like 11 years old when he was like really weeping, and that was really difficult for me to see him as this really strong, aggressive, angry person, and this really weak sign of weakness, because I was told, you know, crying is a sign of weakness and never to do that. So we can really see some of the things, and some of the things I wrote down here just on the side. Time, bold, brave, unloving. This is all on the masculine side. Untrustworthy, unpredictable, you know, mysterious. So many different things that you can have on there. But I've also put safe, useless, pathetic, like really strong stuff, right, that I've worked through. And on the other side, we've got the feminine as well. Yeah, Gail, and I think it is a thing when we have those sort of dads. They are extremely confusing for our sense of self, right? And it can really create this imbalance as we grow up, especially from children into women, and there's that transfer, because this is all, you know, Freudian stuff, but when we move through it, there's this whole imbalance, and it's going to completely play out in all of the relationships. And yeah, and it can go completely the other way. The negative words to men, it can really get to the point where it is almost seeking back the power. And this is where, in sort of the BDSM world, this is where the mistress and the slaves come from, is because these women are really overpowering the men. I think women need to take back what we've given. And it's not about that for me. It's about having equal opportunity. But what has been so misconstrued around this is that we've not been given the voices or the opportunities to be heard in that equal opportunity. So this is where it becomes very uneven, and there's a lot of people that can take that hatred from that trauma, they can take that, you know, hurt people, and they can really take that forward and push forward with it, or come from a victim mentality. And it's really about being open and vulnerable to say that, you know, men have this just as much as women. Men can be very, very stuck in their feminine because they look up to their mothers as their first sort of fixed characters in their life. And a lot of them still fear, they have a fear around their father. So it's this mother clutch. And in a lot of cultures, Spanish culture, other cultures as well, they bow when they meet their mothers. It's a very respectable thing. The women still have this sort of power over them, and that sense of when you are a sex that literally doesn't have any sort of power, or there's a sort of mystical wisdom, then there comes a lot of scare with that. So there's a lot of fear. You're either living in love or you're living in fear. So I've put on here what is a woman, and I've put sensitive, but on the other side of that sensitive, it could be weak, passive, manipulative, demanding, gentle, oppressed, defenseless, warrior, speaker, holder, scary, beautiful, wild. These are all qualities. And yeah, it's a really strong sort of pull that we can see in that. So this is where we start to break out of that. We start to break out of our stories. We start to build an empowering fence to come up to, and to really kind of relate to. And yeah, I think that this is about building from the bottom and leaving the trauma behind and seeing what we can alchemize out of it. How can we take, that feeling of taking something from nothing and building something out of it, building something great out of it, right? And being the bigger person in the relationship that can look at their shadow and also recognize the shadows of others, so that we don't get caught up in these same things over and over again. So a big thing for me was the actual underlying fear of the feminine heart, and fearing the feminine heart because of the power that held. And the power that held was almost so overwhelming for me that I disregarded it. Because I don't want to be powerful. I don't want to have responsibility. Oh, just hand it over to somebody else. I don't have to deal with it then. I don't have to grow up. I don't have to... Who do I turn to? I can't turn to a man when I'm having a problem now. What do I do? And it's coming an awareness of that, and opening up to our sisters, opening up to, the women around us, and creating a tribe mentality around that, and creating an empowerment that can really change the world. So something to kind of notice around this is like how this kind of feels in your body when you're going through this exercise, right? Because it's gonna come out, and sometimes it comes out like word vomit. It comes from the unconscious. You don't know where it's coming from, but you're like, oh, this is scary stuff. So it's really important to take a breath and see how that feels in your body. For me, it feels almost like a tightness in my chest, and there's a tightness in my belly, a frozen torso, a sort of icky feeling. And this is where trauma is held. It's stored and it's held within the body. So it's really important to kind of listen to that and note that. Hello, if you've just come on, we're talking about the masculine and feminine and different balances of that. Me and Gail have just been talking about some things that have happened with us and our families, and the energy that we're building here today as well. So if you're here, come and say hello. And yeah, so really feeling into that and how that feels in your body. And there's different ways that we can work around this and alchemize this, and I'll go through some of these methods as well because it's really important. So what does a masculine and feminine look like, and then how can we move through that? A healthy masculine and feminine, a balance. And this is always going to constantly be a balance. It's not just an activity that you do overnight and it magically happens and works, because the world doesn't work like that, right? The world is 24/7. It's always constantly demanding. It's always wanting us to be both our masculine and feminine, but it's about that ebb and flow, and finding that, and finding what activities pull us into that and make us feel more centered. So a balanced masculine, so the masculine is very decisive. The masculine makes all the decisions. He has a presence of being the observer and the listener. He holds space. He's still, he's a support, he's a structure. As I said about the feminine being the flow, the masculine would be the walls and the build that holds that flow of the feminine. So when we build this in ourselves, we can really feel supported by ourselves and not through someone else. Then we can get our to-do list done because we've got the creative stuff to go alongside it. Then we can relax, then we can reward ourselves. So the feminine is all about feeling our emotions, our sexuality, our sensuality, its movement, its flow, its love, its expression. And it can be vulnerability, which is where we can, really open up our hearts, but we can choose to move from a place of love and a space to continue in a heart, in a clear way that builds trust, and we can share that energy and that power in how we grow. And it's really about working with your intuition. I work my intuition so much now that things just pop into my head, and I'm sure that, if you can relate to this, let me know, because I'm sure I'm not the only person that gets it, and it only happens when you're in a flow state. So I'll be dancing, or I'll be doing something in the kitchen or something like that, and something will just pop into my head, like intuition, boom, and it's like from a higher power than myself. And I used to always deny or repress that. You'd be like, oh, that's quite a cool thought, but not act on it. And when we act on it, we kill the magic. We don't create, we don't make spaces for that to take shape. So that's really important to listen to that. And it's about compassion as well. Feminine is all about compassion. Yeah, I feel that. The trapped energies that sit in the chest area, and this is a really, really prevalent area for us as well, right? Is our chest, because it's very, we store all of the things, it all comes down and we hold it into the chest, and it really sits. It sits there, it sits on our chest. There's this idea as well of having the world on our shoulders and on our backs. It's words that we say, it's things that we alchemize into our bodies, into ourselves. And yeah, it's about balance. And when you say power as well, it's with great power becomes great responsibility. And this is where I found that there was that split. I didn't want that responsibility. Because I didn't feel heard or supported by people. And now that I have a tribe of loving sisters to turn to, I know that I'll always have that energy and that balance and that power. But yeah, I really do feel that as well, Gail, and I'm hearing that, and I'm seeing what you're saying. Yeah. And I think it's so important that we listen to our intuition. And there's so many different ways that we can do that as well. And it's so important for our creative flow. That kind of gut feeling, the gut doesn't lie. And listening to our gut and taking action on that. Because, not taking action on that is another way of suppressing that power within ourselves. And we've had enough of that from other people. So we don't need to continue to do it to ourselves. So what ways can you get our masculine to hold the frame and allow the time for the feminine to relax and to feel easy, and say, to your feminine, that I can take care of this for you. I can hold this space. I can support you. I can allow you to dance. I can allow you to free flow. And this is also about the feminine trusting the masculine, because if we've had a lack of trust, we're not gonna feel that we can trust the masculine. We're not gonna rely on it. We're afraid that it's gonna leave, or we're gonna abandon ourselves in a sense. So can we have enough trust in ourselves? And it's about being able to express emotions in a new way and being able to get our wants and our needs heard. How can the masculine and the feminine have a conversation in my mind today? How can they relate to each other? So yeah, when we're too focused in the masculine, we're addicted to coffee, we're addicted to the HIIT workouts, the feeling strong, the action, the to-do list, all of these very strong, structured, focused things from point A to point B, right? It's the action taking. But none of that can happen if we're not balancing it with our feminine. If we're not dancing, if we're not in flow, if we're not expressing ourselves openly, if we're not taking our cleansing baths, if we're not doing our yoga and time to ourselves, if we're not switching off the rest of the world. And I feel, I feel really, so this is about, breaking free and expressing yourself freely, completely, and this is what it's about. It's about that time for you, and for me, time near the ocean or water. So the masculine is a fire and an air element. So that's where the masculine comes from. It comes from the fire and the air. It's a very strong element. So the air is ever changing. It's very strong. The fire is it's always burning. It's very strong. It's very unpredictable. But it's a force. It's a force of nature. The feminine is more an earth or water element. It's very grounded, it's very free flow, it's very natural. So these are the two different things that we can work with, and how we work with those elements to bring back the home. And having flowers in the house, for me, that's been a huge thing. Oils, colouring for the sake of just doing it, doing art, that activities that have no particular purpose or outlook. Cooking, nourishment, walks in nature. So what I'd like you to do is I'd just like you to do a little activity with me now. So if you're watching this back on the replay, you can do that as well. So what we're going to do is you're just going to take your hand on your chest, and you're going to place one on your stomach here as well. And you can do this with me at home. You're going to take a deep breath in through the nose. Deep breath out. Another breath in. And one more breath, the biggest breath we've taken all day. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think of these three phrases. Can't speak today. And this is about that give and take, and listening to that masculine and feminine, what we can do today to feel that. So I'd like you to write down, if you have it, or just think in your head. I feel whatever is coming up for you. I desire whatever that may be in this current moment. And I need. So this may be your masculine or your feminine talking to you. I feel, I desire, I need. And this is putting the two together. This may be the feminine or the masculine saying, I feel this way. I have an expression that I need to get out. The masculine may be saying, I desire, and I need is the breakup of how are we going to get. How are we just going to feel that feeling and be in that moment? So this is powerful stuff, right? This is really big stuff. So what I'd like to do is I'd just like you to put your hand on your heart and make a promise to yourself today that you're going to do one thing, and whether you know that that's in the masculine or the feminine, to balance that out. And you can rewatch the video and you can have a look and see of the activities that can make you feel feminine and masculine, and you might already know what they are. But we're going to give the feminine a bit of space to breathe. Yeah. And those emotions that are there for a reason, those emotions are there to be heard and to be listened to. And when we build, especially with the feminine, we build a wall around this chest area. This chest area is the heart, and the heart can take an awful lot of hurt. And when we work with these emotions, we work with the feminine, we work with hearts and heart meditation and heart time. We peel off a layer of that hurt, and we open up to other people, so we can say, look, this is what I have for you, and this is what I can take. And that's the free flow of giving and taking. It's constant. So it's okay to feel emotional, and it's okay to feel powerful, because sometimes those powerful feelings can feel just as uncomfortable as the emotional ones. And how can we experience that emotion today? Is it a sensation? Are you giving that sensation full permission of how to feel? So yeah, I would like you to make one promise to yourself today and do one of those activities so that you can get in touch with your masculine and feminine. And I would really like to hear back some of the things in the list that came up on both sides. Where is the balance? And some of the ones that really stuck out for you. So for me, looking at this is a story of my upbringing and my parents' relationship. My mum was the holder. She was oppressed. These are words I've written down for the woman. This is the first female figure that I've ever had in my life. Manipulative, obsessed. These are things that I'm replaying out because of my old childhood wounds. The masculine, the father thing, where did that come from? Untrustable, unpredictable, unloving. So these are two sides that are still going on within me because that child hasn't had a chance to learn how to build their own system and their own support. So I'm going to leave that with you, and I'm going to create a post later on in this group, and on that post I would like you to put in, I'm going to have a post for the things that you found were on both sides, the things that were balanced, and the things that most surprised you. What words really stuck out as the imbalance, and the one activity that you'd like to do today as well to balance out the masculine or feminine, what you find really powerful. So I hope you take that with you. I hope you have a fantastic day. Please look after yourselves, and I really look forward to hearing from you. And thank you so much as well, Gail. I will catch up with you later in the week in the chat. Okay, thank you. Bye.